Today was a most productive day for Steve's turbo project. It's actually two videos in one because what happened, I thought the day was over. The wind was kicking up. It was getting really super windy. And then Steve stopped by with the matching parts so we could verify that this paint that he bought from CLEAR.Hot is a good choice. I think it is. And we could not get the clear on. It got colder and colder as the day went by, and the wind got worse and worse. And I did not want to paint any clear and jeopardize having this job come out anything but the best we possibly can. And by the end of the day, it was great. We got a nice visit with Steve, and we got basically everything but the clear done on the turbo bike. So there's a lot of good news today. It looks like we have a day we can do some painting and maybe get a ride in the afternoon. You never know. It's coming up. It's going to be very nice. There's a little wind blowing, but not going to stop us. We're going to get primer. I think the goal should be we'll get the primer and maybe the black on Turbo Steve's turbo bike, and I'm not sure how the weather's going to play out. The wind was really blowing this morning, and sometime that becomes a problem. We'll just have to see. But of course there's always some really good news. We're in the last, hopefully, maybe a week to 10 days of doing the kids project, getting them moved back in, and that'll make our life a little bit simpler. I'll have a little more time to work, a little more time to ride. And we're always subject to changes in the weather, changes in the temperature, changes in our life. But somehow, at the end of the day, we always manage to get something done. Let's hope today's going to be a productive day. And as it always is, step one, take care of the fish, the barnyard animals, the birds, and drink a lot of extra coffee. Okay, boys, don't bite me. Don't bite the hand that feeds you. Come on, you can do it. You can do it. Hey, the barnyard chores are done. We're ready to start looking at what we got done. Just the other day we got that primed. That's pretty much ready for paint. And my original plan was going to be to get that fully done just so Steve could match the color. Well, I'm not sure we're going to get this. We'll try to get this all in black today. But we'll see how the day plays out. Maybe we'll get some of it done. But it would be nice to get him one test part so he could match that silver up before we actually do all of this. But we still don't know how it's going to play out. And that's the problem, is you never know how this weather's going to be. The wind is really blowing out there. And this is the primer we've been using. Now, I've been having a problem with the spitting, but if I have to, you know, I'll have to use up and resand and maybe go down to AutoZone and get a couple of fresh cans, because this batch I got, and it may be that it's just an old batch, I don't know, but I've replaced the tip. It didn't do much, and it was just, I think part of it is it's actually in the material. Maybe this is old cans. I don't know if there's a date code on them. But anyway, up to the last time I bought a case of this was fine. I always like to pass that information on. And we still have two good cans. That should give us enough to finish up Steve's job. Let's hope. Now I've got to figure out some way of holding these parts, making a handle for this, or some way to hang it up. This is Sikkens M600 to wipe everything down. We've already wet sanded this thoroughly, checked it for little flaws, and it looks pretty good. Looks like these parts are in pretty nice shape. There was no major thing that had to be repaired, a couple little detail things, and that was it. So the Sikkens M600 is really a good thing. We'll tack rag it down, and then we'll go out there and get some primer on it. Let's see how this day is going to play out. I'll be very curious to see how the wind is blowing out there. So the first problem we had to deal with, of course, is these duplicolor cans that you get some paint and all of a sudden they start spitting out big spoonfuls of paint. And I tried 2 or 3 that were half full. They all spit. I finally found one. Out of a whole case, I think I've only gotten 2 that were even worth having. But I'm going to have to call the company or something. I don't know what has caused that, but it's a mystery to me, and I'm going to be working on some kind of tentative solution. I'll pass it on. Now, some truth in advertising. I tried, even my good can was spitting. The other 3 cans that were unmarked, useless. I have the last can, so I'm down to the end. I'm going to have to go to AutoZone and get some. I hope they have some. This is a, I don't know what this is, an anomaly or what, but this can looks okay. So out of a case of, I think there's 12 in a case. I don't remember. There's only a few that were good. That's not good. Okay, we're going to put that aside to dry, bring out the other parts, and it looks like the wind is blowing just enough to make this challenging. And we have our first flower in the garden. That'll cheer me up a little bit when I'm taking a break for coffee. And our flowering tree in front of the house is beautiful. Okay, so it's actually warmed up. It's probably going to be 50 by this afternoon, so that paint's going to dry up beautifully. We should be able to get the black on it this afternoon too. Anyway, there is some mystery to that last batch of paint, but before that, I bet I've had many years of using it, and I've never had a problem with it. And so this might be an anomaly. Actually, I think I'm going to contact Duplicolor and see if they have any thoughts about what that might be. I don't know. I really don't know. Anyway, we're going to try to get this primed. It's very important in the case of the tank. I want to get the bottom done because the bottom has a lot of backmasking on it. So we will get this, well, we'll take advantage of the fact that we don't have any rain today for a change. Now, I wanted to make sure I got plenty of paint on the bottom of this. Actually, there were some spots that were still a little, looked like they might even be the beginning of rust around the tubes, and I had a lot of it backmasked off. And there's a big sender unit that goes to the fuel gauge, just like on a GS on this. But here's the whole thing. I have this Duplicolor primer, and in the middle of this whole job, and you never can make this up, every one of these cans had issues with the can, and I was really getting annoyed about the whole thing. And no matter what I did, I took another can and I got a couple little bits done with that, and then this one would spit and that one would spit. Then one would go a third of a can before it would spit. I really don't know. Maybe I'm going to have to soak those tips in acetone. Some people have suggested put the cans in hot water. I don't know. It never happened up until this last batch, and I want to emphasize I'm not bad-mouthing Duplicolor. It's this one case I got, a case of this, and I don't know what the deal is. Now, cleaning up the fairing, and then it got to the point where I was really getting annoyed. I took the fairing outside, and now I'm going to just show this exactly in real time. You can see this can. This is the can that was up to this point a good can, and it's spraying, everything's nice. Oh, everything's beautiful, and you're spraying, and then what'll happen is you just get to a point, and then out it comes. And I wanted to show this in real time and just show the thing that I'm dealing with here. No camera cut. There's what happens. And I have not. Now, there's the cure. Wipe it real quick with your bare finger. That's why I didn't have a glove on. And let it dry for a few minutes and just go back over it. It's not a problem. But boy, it gets annoying, and you wind up having your hands full of paint. Then I found the real solution, and the solution was simple. I got in the car, went to AutoZone. They had 2 cans left on the shelf. Bought them both. Finished out the job, no problem. Somehow that's always the solution, is just get rid of the bad paint. Anyway, I'm not sure. I may contact Duplicolor for some advice, give them an email or something. But it was a very disappointing case of paint that I've dealt with here. That was really disappointing. Now, they said it was going to go to 50 degrees today, but I think they lied. It's a lot colder. It's not even up in the mid-40s yet, and I'm freezing out here. Anyway, I'll have a cup of coffee, mix up the black paint, see if we can get some black paint on this before weather really goes south. So this is the paint that we're going to have, the black, and it's a Sherwin-Williams product. We have normal mid-temp thinner for this to thin it. It's a 50-50, and we're going to hopefully get some black on there today. So the weather, of course, was getting colder by the minute. The wind was getting worse. I think you can even see in the pictures here how bad the wind was. And I was thinking, well, I'll be really lucky if I just get the black on here today. But I toughed this out because I really wanted to see how that paint was going to match. I mean, Steve went to a lot of effort to get that paint and from Color-Right, and I was just wanting to get it done if I possibly could and get a look at how that was going to match. Because getting these paint matches is a real job. It's really not as easy as you think it is. And I know this is a bike Steve this is his treasure in life. So once I got the black on, the rest of this is pretty much cut and dry. Because even if I quit at the end of doing the black, at least I've got that done. But the weather was changing by the minute, and the wind was just getting worse and worse. And I was just wondering at what point am I going to have to throw the towel in here. There's a point at which, you just can't paint. The paint doesn't go from the gun to the part. And I know for the people that have Jay Leno spray booths or body shop, beautiful things with downdraft spray booths. Yep. But you know what? This is really tough guy painting out here. And as always, by the end of the day, we got the job done. But boy, it doesn't make it easier. There's just some days the weather is not your friend. And I totally abandoned any idea of going out for a bike ride after this. You get blown off the road here, unless you had a sailboat. Now, I'm used to painting outdoors all the time, so some of this I just take for granted. But there are days, and today happened to be one of them, that it really put me to the test. I was not sure I was going to be able to get this done, what I wanted to get done today. But the wind is really something you have to deal with. Now, I pushed myself into the corner of the house there so that it kind of blocks some of the wind, but it would sure be nice, and we won't even think about putting clear on this today with that wind. You would just turn that thing into a piece of flypaper, and then all of that sanding you'd have to do to get that dust out of the paint. Well, it's just not worth it. So there's days the weather wins. Now, I was right about now, I think I sent Steve an email, a quick picture from my phone that if he could get over here today, we could match up that gold, and we decided I'd paint the gold no matter what. And that I call it gold, it's really tan. So while that's drying and we're having a cup of coffee, we want to get on. I want to mix this up. Steve had this mixed up, and it has to go over black. That's why we painted black. I try to get the thinnest coat I could possibly get on there. Now, I have Color Right Reducer. It's a mid-temp, so we'll test it on the fender, and we'll see how that looks. Now, I could see right away why they wanted you to paint over black, and which is the case with many of these type of colors. This paint was very, very thin, and that's the way these translucent colors, it's almost like a candy apple, but it's got a pearl cast to it. It's a really beautiful paint, and I think once the clear actually gets on it, it's going to be a real good match, and it's going to be a really nice color in the bright sun. Much like the GS is. That paint on the GS is really a tough thing to match. I've painted the side covers on that already, and the front fender, and it's been a problem to try to get it to match. This color is really going to be, and it's going to be, I think it's the right color for this bike. It's going to have the look of that era bike where Suzuki had these tan colors and silver colors. That was the vogue thing back then, and I know Steve is trying to make some decals, or he's got stickers or whatever, but once we get the color right and he approves the color, then we'll go on to the next step. But this actually took a lot longer than I thought it would, but we were fighting the weather all day. This was just the kind of day. The weather was not cooperating, the wind, the temperature, but as always, at the end of the day, we get the job done. Now, that color, I took this piece, in fact, in by the GS to see how close it was. It's really close. But what's different about it, this has a lot more of the metallic sparkle in it. And if you remember when I mixed the silver for the wheels, how different the silvers look when the sparkles get bigger. When I painted Pokey's BMW tank with the big flakes in it, changes the whole color. And when it changes it is when you put the clear on. Now, I'm just looking at it right now. This really has a nice look to it. I love the color of the GS, and actually, to be honest, it's Karen's favorite color of all the bikes. She likes it better than the Yamaha Racing Blue, which is my favorite color. So anyway, we did go, and on this one, you got to go. We needed 3 full coats, and you better exit. You better go back one way, back the other way, X the pattern, or you're going to get zebra striping. This was a very difficult, go that way, go any way you can. And luckily the sun was just enough that you could see the zebra striping and minimize it. Because once that clear is on, those little gold flakes, they are really going to jump out at you. Now here, this paint does not dry shiny. It doesn't have a gloss to it, but it's really going to be, I think it's going to be a real close match. Now, luckily, Turbo Steve did come over later in the day. Now I had to be so careful with this tank, where that wind was blowing. I wanted to get it off the table so it wouldn't suck up any more dead bugs or anything. Now the second coat started to dry a little shinier, but still, it's not supposed to dry shiny. It dries dull so that the clear gets a better bond. It's a simple thing, but it is shiny when it's wet like that. Now, the fairing, and this was really a lot of work because of the way the wind was blowing, and you can see the wind blowing. I was afraid it was going to blow off to the side of the table or whatever. And actually, in the time I was doing this, the spray cans blew off the table, so it was getting my full attention there for a while. But anyway, it really did everything required, 3 coats. And here I got the third coat going on to the fender, and I wanted to see that final color before Steve got there. And I thought this was going to be the end of the video because I didn't know if Steve was going to be able to make it today, but luckily he did. And that color really did come out nice. Now you can't make this up even if you wanted to. By the time this job was done, the wind was blowing so bad there was no way to get the clear on. I wanted to get a coat of clear. It's not happening. That wind is just howling out there. And as I'm looking at this color, by the way, this color absolutely needed 3 full coats. I just shortened down the video of the spraying. This just went on forever. But 3 full coats on everything, and it's a beautiful color. This is really like a pearly gray. It's like the color on the Suzuki. You almost could use this for touch-up paint. Not quite, but the flakes in it are bigger. They use a bigger size flake. Beautiful color. Now, the next step on this, we have to have Turbo Steve come over with the parts that this is supposed to match before I do the clear. Because once that clear is on, we're kind of married to it. Anyway, this was a long day. This was a labor-intensive day. I had no idea. The color is beautiful, and I'm just hoping it's going to be a real good match because this is really a collector bike. And I know Steve is going to be happy with it. He's got the engine in already, and we're looking forward to the first time he goes down to Bikes and Breakfast and does a big wheelie in front of the place. So when Steve got back to me that he had time to come over today with the matching side covers, I just hung out and had coffee for a while, looked at the parts, and it really was a big advantage that he was able to come over today so we could decide on if we're going to go with the clear or we're going to, whatever the next step is. I don't know. We're going to paint flames on it and Harley decals. I don't know yet. But anyway, it was good. I just stood back and looked at everything drying up in the garage. Reminded me of the time when Najat had his whole Ducati apart. We had it hanging up in here like a laundry place. So a little benefit of this whole thing is Steve is on his way over here with the matching parts. That may change the way the whole day. I thought the day was over, but Steve's available, and if we can get an okay that these parts match, they'll be ready for the clear. Maybe that wind will even die down. I don't know. We're going to find out. So I'm having coffee and Turbo Steve is sneaking into the garage. Watch him drop the parts. So this is like the day that never ends, but Steve did run over with a part, and before we put the clear on, that's a critical thing, boy. But once you get the clear on there, oh man, then it starts to be the paint. If you have to repaint it and go over that, the paint gets too thick. I'm hoping this is going to be a really good match. And of course, these paints all dry dull. And by the way, thank you, Joe Padula, for donating the thinner to this job. This is a Ducati thinner. I don't know if that's going to make this bike faster or not.
Somewhat close.
It's darker. It's darker then. See, that's why I didn't want to put the clear on until you match it up, and because otherwise, you know.
The clear might change it a little bit.
It'll change it a little bit, but it's not going to change it that much. Now the funny thing, when the sun comes out, it's going to look different, and when you go under fluorescent light, it's going to look even more different. Ask that snail. He's the Turbo Snail. He knows all there is. Yeah, when you go into the sun, see, there's not much sun today. You can't really tell. Now here's another thing. As you walk away, it looks better and better. So just put a long swing arm on the bike. Okay. A discerning customer. Oh my God.
It just means I have to, if I want to get a match, I'll probably probably have to sand the side covers down too.
Well, the worst can happen, you paint the side covers, but
Yeah, well,
if you don't have to, how nice would that be? Was this your buddy that mixed the paint out there? Your friend of a friend? Or was it your friend?
I never met him.
Oh, okay.
He said he worked with
It isn't that guy you sold a 40-year-old tire to.
I saw him yesterday.
You know, it really can't shoot any clear now with the wind blowing. You'll have so much dust. There's so much dust in the paint when it's windy like this.
I'll just leave the bike in the garage.
Well, only have blind friends.
No, but
I won't tell anybody. Only 10,500 people are going to see this video tomorrow. Nobody will know.
I want to tell the guy.
Jose won't know.
No, this is good because the guy who mixed the paint, he's asking me how did it look. And I
Well,
said,
take some pictures
I
of
haven't
it.
painted it yet. Well,
Yeah.
I don't want to drag it out.
Well, write it out there and tell them you want your money back.
No,
I don't think it's that bad, to be honest. If this were my bike, it wouldn't bother me at all.
But I'll have to.
So after a really long day, and a video with two endings. This is the first video I've made in my whole life that has two endings. I hope when it got to the first ending, maybe I would have just edit that out. I don't know. Anyway, there's a thing we have to, and I've gone out when the sun came out a little bit later in the day and did this. The flakiness looks like it's just a tad bigger. But what's going to happen is when we put the clear on, but I'm not going to do it today. That clear is going to make the flake look bigger. So maybe it's going to be a really, really good match. I was kidding Steve about it. To me, I think it's fine just the way it is, but it's going to get better. And then this part obviously is buffed out. The dust is taken out of it. We're going to do that too. So what a day this was. This was a very, very long day. I had no idea how long this was going to be when I started, but I'm glad it's up to this point because we're supposed to have a couple of nice days in the week coming up, and I would love to get out on a bike. I'm sure Steve would too. And in the meantime, that can be drying, and I'll be thinking about how this is going to play out. Now, the other problem that he's going to have, we have to figure out, he's going to get stickers or make his own decals. I don't know what he's going to do. But luckily, that word Suzuki that's on the tank, we have that already in our computer. So making a copy of it shouldn't be, if he decides he needs it, I don't know. I guess we're going to find out. That's the fun of old motorcycles. And the fun of having good friends like Steve. So the day ended on a very positive note, and we are ready for a day where the wind will not be howling as bad as today to shoot some clear. I'm looking forward to that. I'm looking forward to getting some riding in. Little by little, the spring flowers are blooming, and we're all starting to socialize more than we did over the winter. So life is good here on the Ponderosa. Karen's getting ready to shop for plants, and we just can't wait to plant our garden and do all the things that come in a normal time of spring. The trees are flowering, the bikes are all on battery charger and ready to go. And thanks so much for watching.